The truth is beginning to emerge, and it's impossible to ignore. The world is witnessing a significant moment as a prominent royal correspondent and her media organization face serious allegations of employing private investigators to gather information about royal family members themselves. Here's what makes this particularly interesting. A recent High Court decision has worked in favour of the Prince of Wales. The ruling prevents the Duke of Sussex's legal team from presenting evidence that suggests the Princess of Wales was among those investigated by this newspaper group. One has to ask, what's the motivation behind keeping this information under wraps? Welcome back to Meghan and Harry Tales, where we examine the stories the mainstream British media often overlooks. This is where we stand firmly with the Sussexes, bringing you analysis of media tactics and power structures that keep certain narratives alive. Please consider subscribing and activating notifications. If you value this independent content, your support through Super Thanks, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee helps us continue this work. Today, we're examining how a senior royal reporter, a major newspaper and palace connections appear to be working to prevent the Duke from achieving transparency. One of Britain's largest tabloid organisations finds itself facing legal action once again. The allegations involve unauthorised information collection, telecommunications interception, and hiring private operatives to obtain confidential details. The targets included everyday individuals, entertainment figures, and members of the royal household. The Duke of Sussex has joined forces with 6 other claimants, including Sir Elton John, in pursuing legal action against the media company. Their claims detail years of surveillance, deceptive practices, and breach of privacy. The newspaper's response? Consistent denial, dismissing everything as unfounded attacks. However, observers of British journalism recognise a pattern. When these organisations protest most vehemently, revelations often follow. In this instance, the trail appears to lead toward one of their most prominent royal correspondents. This veteran royal correspondent has spent years covering the monarchy for this major tabloid. She's well known for sympathetic reporting on the Prince and Princess of Wales, while her coverage of the Sussexes has been notably less favourable. However, evidence presented in legal proceedings suggests that investigative services may have been retained in connection with her reporting activities, allegedly targeting royal family members. This includes, remarkably, the current Princess of Wales. The very woman whose public image this publication has carefully cultivated may have had her privacy compromised by the same organisation. Yet the Prince of Wales appears very motivated to keep this revelation quiet. If this information becomes widely known, it could fundamentally undermine the relationship between certain royals and preferred media outlets. It would demonstrate that even those receiving favourable coverage weren't immune from invasive information gathering. Consider the implications. The crucial difference lies in how information was used. For some royals, damaging details were suppressed. For the Sussexes, everything became fodder for publication. The Duke's legal representatives sought to introduce evidence suggesting this newspaper employed private investigators to gather information about the Princess of Wales. This evidence could establish a pattern of questionable practices. However, Justice Matthew Nicklin determined that introducing this evidence at this stage would be procedurally inappropriate. Remarkably convenient timing. Who stands to gain from this ruling? The Prince of Wales, undoubtedly. The Duke's team can no longer utilise evidence concerning his sister-in-law to demonstrate systematic privacy violations. Evidence that could demonstrate these violations has been excluded from consideration. The timing justification raises questions. Why has directly relevant evidence suddenly become inadmissible? Could it be that influential individuals prefer this information remain sealed? This isn't the first time the Prince of Wales's name has surfaced in connection with media misconduct. Earlier this year, information emerged that he had quietly resolved a phone hacking claim involving another media empire. No public trial, no courtroom testimony, just a financial settlement and confidentiality agreements. The Duke of Sussex, by contrast, declined settlement offers. He sought public accountability and institutional change, not financial compensation, but fundamental reform. Consider what this reveals. The Prince knew his communications had been intercepted. Yet, rather than pursuing justice through open proceedings, he accepted payment and signed non-disclosure agreements. Why? Because a public trial would expose the symbiotic relationship between palace operations and media organizations. It would validate everything his brother has been articulating for years. One brother works within the system to protect it. The other brother exposes its flaws. That's the fundamental distinction. The inconsistency is remarkable. When the Sussexes established independence, media outlets labelled them disloyal. When the Prince settles privately, those same outlets praise his discretion. When the Duchess shares her experiences, she's accused of seeking attention. When the Princess maintains silence, she's commended for dignity. When the Duke pursues legal accountability, he's portrayed as obsessive. When his brother settles confidentially, he's lauded for handling matters appropriately. These proceedings are revealing that British media institutions and royal establishments function as complementary entities. They shield preferred individuals while targeting those who challenge the arrangement. The standards shift depending on who's being evaluated and whether they cooperate with the existing structure. The Sussexes' fundamental transgression: they stopped participating in the arrangement. Despite this procedural setback, the Duke's legal team is already preparing appeals. They remain committed to exposing the extent of these practices. The Duke understands the personal cost. He's faced vilification, ridicule, and misrepresentation. Yet he continues. Why? Because this extends beyond family disputes. It's about accountability in institutions built on concealment. The Duke could have accepted settlements. He didn't, because he recognizes this fight isn't solely about him. It's about every person targeted by these publications. It's about reforming practices that have persisted for decades. His mother faced relentless pursuit by these same publications. The Duke refuses to allow history to repeat. He's fighting for his mother's memory and his children's future. Each time the Duke advances toward truth, his brother appears to receive convenient protection. From confidential settlements to this recent judicial decision, the Prince of Wales clearly benefits when his brother's case faces limitations. His silence isn't dignified restraint, it's tacit approval. When senior royal correspondents provide cover, the pattern becomes unmistakable. Protect one brother, attack the other. Elevate one spouse, diminish the other. Here's what's particularly revealing. The Prince has never publicly supported his brother's pursuit of media accountability. Not once. His own brother is challenging the institutions that violated both their privacy, yet he remains silent. That silence is extraordinarily telling. Meanwhile, globally, support for the Sussexes continues expanding. People recognise their courage in opposing this system. From their initiatives on digital well-being and mental health to their compassionate advocacy work, they represent something that certain institutions fear: authentic integrity. The Sussexes have built something meaningful since establishing their independence. Their foundation pursues genuine humanitarian objectives. They've addressed significant issues and amplified marginalized voices. Consider the contrast. Where's the authentic impact on the other side? It's primarily photo opportunities and carefully orchestrated appearances, all designed to maintain appearances without substantive change. International audiences are seeing through it. They're recognizing that the Sussexes represent a different leadership model, based on authenticity rather than image management. These proceedings remind us that British journalism isn't truly independent. It's influenced by concentrated wealth, institutional connections, and coordinated campaigns designed to manage public perception. The Duke is attempting to expose this arrangement. That's why certain parties fear him, because if he succeeds, it reveals how palace operations supply information to press organisations, and how press organisations provide favourable coverage in return. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement that's beginning to fracture. A small number of wealthy proprietors control the narrative. They collaborate closely with palace staff who provide information in exchange for positive reporting. It's coordinated messaging presented as news. That's why attacks against the Duke have been so aggressive. Because if people actually listen to his arguments and examine the evidence, the entire structure collapses. As these legal proceedings continue, the Duke's courage is challenging the system. And while some may celebrate temporary procedural victories, truth tends to emerge eventually. This isn't the conclusion. It's another chapter. The Duke's team will file appeals and continue gathering evidence. With each new revelation, more truth emerges. The public is paying attention. They're asking questions, connecting patterns, and recognizing what's been deliberately obscured. That's what troubles the establishment most. Not the lawsuits themselves, but the awareness they're creating. The facade is crumbling. The revelations about this royal correspondent and her newspaper's alleged tactics represent just the beginning. The Sussexes made the right decision to establish their independence from this problematic system. They recognized it for what it was and demonstrated courage in choosing a different path. If you value accountability, transparency, and truth over manipulation, please subscribe to this channel. Activate notifications, share your thoughts in the comments, and if you'd like to support independent analysis, you can contribute via Super Thanks, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee. Every contribution matters. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and as always, Team Sussex forever.